It's 2 in the afternoon on Thursday, December 8th, and this is Observer TV News. I'm Krystal Reynolds.
And I'm Bianca Quijano.
Here are your top stories today.
One man is dead after a shooting in East York. Alberta's elementary schools are introducing gender-neutral washrooms, and Black rights activist Viola Desmond will be the first Canadian woman to appear on the currency.
Gun violence is increasing in Toronto. When a gun goes off, the impact extends far beyond the 911 call and the individuals involved. Communities feel the shock, parents worry about their children, and everyone feels a little less safe. As Sarah Samuel reports, 2 Toronto communities are taking a stand for peace.
The area of Lawrence Heights and Neptune has been known to some as the jungle. When it comes to gun violence, the area is one of the most dangerous in the city. But it's still a place that many call home, and they want to see that change. On November 6th, members from both communities gathered together for a 3rd annual Walk for Peace.
What's up, man? We back for another year, 3rd annual. Jada, man. Community Walk for Peace. Love my community, man.
The walk began as a response to the 2014 shooting death of Abshir Hassan, a popular teacher in the Lawrence Heights area. Every year, the message is the same: end the violence. However, Toronto has seen a 43% increase in gun violence over the last year. Yet this group of about 100 demonstrators remain resilient.
I'm a mom, and I wanted my sons, I have 3 of them, to be able to come and go from the community not being afraid.
The walk has become a way to honor all of those affected by gun violence by continuing to work for peace. Members of these communities remain hopeful that there will be a brighter future. Sarah Samuel, Observer TV News, Toronto.
Now to your local news. A 46-year-old man was shot and killed in East York last night. Ardian Kaloshi, a non-resident of Toronto, was murdered outside a social club at 9:52 p.m. Wednesday at 393 Donlands Avenue. Kaloshi's death is considered Toronto's 64th homicide for 2016. Toronto police have not yet identified any suspects in the shooting, but the investigation is ongoing. York Regional Education Board trustee is under fire for a racial slur. York Region School trustee Nancy Egley has been accused of uttering racial slurs against a black parent. Her comments were reportedly overheard by other trustees and school board officials during a public school board meeting. The parent was speaking to a reporter about discrimination in the school board when Egley allegedly said the remarks. York Region Public Schools have been riddled with accusations of racism and Islamophobia over the last few months. Last week, the National Council of Canadian Muslims and Vaughn African Canadian Association launched a human rights case against the school board. Homeowners can now expect a hike in property prices for the coming year. Toronto housing is set to rise 8% in 2017. Although it is lower than the 17% increase in 2016, it has gone past the Canadian average of 2%. Real estate agent Cam Forbes is calling it a decreased affordability. In the city of Toronto, the average home costs $700,000. With a possible increase, it could be close to $800,000.
On November 11, Toronto remembered the sacrifices of those who served in the wars with services across the city. The ceremony at Old City Hall began at 10:45 a.m., and people gathered for parades, prayers, songs, and a moment of silence. As Sherry Liu reports with Yeye Zhu, Toronto residents, young and old, haven't forgotten.
Thousands braved the cold in Toronto on November 11th to remember the men and women who served in the Canadian Armed Forces. Toronto residents, young and old, gathered at Old City Hall for the ceremony that began at 10:45 a.m. In the seated section beside the cenotaph, veterans were wrapped in blankets. Their ranks are thinner yet again this year. Despite the growing distance in time between the people of today and the conflicts of the past, the attendants show they have not been forgotten. Hubert Bittman, 56 years old, is here to pay his respects, as he does every year.
An outpouring of people and support here today. I thought it was great. It was more than last year. I was very surprised because, a lot of people like to say we forget and we get too tied up in our busy daily life and we forget. Well, some of us don't.
Harry Neal was a member of Toronto Scottish Regiment who served in France during the Second World War. He was surprised to see the turnout.
Makes you feel a lot better. Makes you think, well, gee, what I did must have been worth it. And I'm proud of the people here. We had a hard time. The fellows that I had with me, they are very loyal. And we had a good, strong unit because of our loyalty. And I'm proud that I served with the Toronto Scottish.
On the 11th day of the 11th month, at the 11th hour, the crowd held 2 minutes of silence. As they looked up from their moment of reflection, they watched the fly past overhead, then joined in a chorus of O Canada. Mayor John Tory spoke about the sacrifices made by those who served in wars and missions both in the past and the present.
And that is one of the reasons why, as difficult as it may be, that it is of the utmost importance that we share memories that have been passed down from generation to generation, so that the children of today and the children of the future understand the significance of Remembrance Day. Why far too many gave up their tomorrow so that we can live in peace and freedom today. This must never be forgotten.
The ceremony concluded with the laying of the wreaths, and the Colour Party's parade marched off. This year marks the 100th anniversary of Canada's role in the Battle of the Somme, a key battle in the First World War. Cherry Liu with Ye Ju, Observer TV News.
And now we're joined here with Cherry Liu. Thank you so much for coming, Cherry.
Thank you, Bianca.
Now tell me, what was the experience like going to that event?
Well, the event started at 10:45 a.m. and I got there before that time. But by the time I got there, the streets were already filled with people, and we could not see anything from where we were standing. So luckily, I had my press pass with me, and I used that and got on the ledge where all the major TV stations were staying. CTV, CBC, they were all there, and we got on that ledge, and we were able to get a very good view of the event.
That's great. Did you have any other difficulties?
Yeah, for one, it was a really cold day, especially because we were just standing still in that weather from 10:45 to for a whole 2 hours. So it was freezing, but we toughed it out, and then we managed to get a lot of really good interviews with people that were at the event.
That's great. What were some of your highlights from the event?
Well, one of them would definitely be seeing all the little kids there, because we talked to a group of children from St. Anthony's Catholic School, and for them, they're below 8 years old. They have no personal connection with the war whatsoever or the sacrifices, but they were still braving the cold for several hours until the very end of the ceremony, and they were all very excited to talk about the ceremony with me and saying that it's on them to remember and carry this memory forward.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Cherry, for coming in and talking about your experience.
Thank you, Bianca.
Police have filed charges against a 17-year-old boy from Toronto who allegedly planned to attack a local school on the 27th anniversary of the Montreal massacre. Police reportedly found swords, machetes, and other weapons in the boy's home, which he may have intended to use in an attack against Oakwood Collegiate Institute near St. Clair Avenue and Dufferin Street. A U.S. citizen contacted police after reading a blog post about the planned attack. Investigators traced the post back to the boy's home. Esports is becoming a worldwide sensation, with young players earning top dollars in tournament prizes. Dota 2 is currently one of the most popular games amongst many others like League of Legends and Counter-Strike Go. Gaming tournaments are becoming increasingly popular and right here in our backyard. Jacqueline Tetsambathis has a story.
AMD's Extravaganza has officially kicked off as gamers from all over rush to view tournaments of some of the biggest games in the world. Dota 2, Super Smash Bros., and Counter-Strike Go are the games players competed in, with Dota 2 taking the lead in being the game with the biggest prize pool. Today's prize pool is $1,300 with 5 teams competing for the big prize. Observer TV News had the opportunity to speak to Andy Tran, professional Dota 2 player on Team Cafe Lu crew. Here's what he had to say.
Hopefully that we win in very fast fashion. You know, nothing going wrong. We just do our stuff and our game's really fast. I'm not nervous at all.
The team diligently got to their stations after checking in and have been practicing for hours even before the official tournament even began.
It looks like we're losing though, from what I can tell. We're probably going to lose. It's better to lose in practice in real game.
I think he's well prepared. The team looks like they're ready to go and really ready to get into the game. The competition looks a little bit tough because there's so many people preparing right now, but there's like really great energy in the room. I feel like this time around, because they've been through so many already, they feel a little bit more confident as a team.
Team Cafe Lu crew ended up winning the tournament after 10 hours of solid gameplay. This has been Jacqueline Tetson-Bandith, Observer TV News, Toronto.
And now we're here live with reporter Jacqueline Tetson-Bandith. Jacqueline, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Bianca.
What was the environment like at the event?
Well, the environment is a lot like an actual sporting event, and I think that's something that not a lot of people realize. It's like any other soccer game, like a football game, basketball game. There are tons of fans that kind of just come to watch the teams play, and it's absolutely amazing the support that a lot of Torontonians have. A lot of Canadian teams have when it comes to esports, and I think that's a thing that not a lot of people realize. It's huge, absolutely huge.
And why do you think we should start paying attention to esports?
I think people should start paying attention to esports because it's right in our backyard. It's huge worldwide, especially in Asian countries, but it's starting to get really, really big in Canada, and especially Toronto, because just this past August, LCS, the League of Legends Championship Series, was just hosted here, and it was a huge stadium. Lots of people showed up. It's definitely a force to be reckoned with, Bianca.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it looks like you had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll have your weather and the national news.
Hello and welcome to the Journal.
We are artists, writers, and storytellers. We are communicators, innovators, and collaborators. We are leaders, creators, and achievers. With one thing in common, a passion for storytelling. Bring life to learning at Centennial College.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Sion, and here's what you can look forward to for this week's weather for Toronto. Looks like winter's finally here to stay as we can expect snow squalls later this week. We're currently at -2 degrees with cloudy skies and flurries outside our East York studio. The rest of today, we're looking at a cloudy sky with sunny breaks, and we'll be hitting our daytime high of +1 degrees later this afternoon. Wind speeds currently at 35 kilometers an hour. Later tonight, there will be a chance of flurries, so if you've got plans, I'd toss on that winter jacket. Friday morning, you can expect a few flurries with a daytime high of -1, but feeling like -5. Time to bust out those hats and scarves. Friday evening, we'll be dropping to -5 with 15 kilometer an hour wind gusts. The overnight will be cloudy with a low of -7. This weekend marks the opening of the Evergreen Brickworks Winter Village. Admission is free and there's tons to do, with over 15 different vendors catering, a campfire, and live music. It's a perfect event for the whole family. For Saturday, we're looking at a high of -1 with a low in the evening of -3. The whole day will be a mix of sun and cloud with intermittent chance of flurries. On Sunday, we're going to get our first light snowfall in the morning with a temperature of -3, and by the afternoon, we'll have around 1 to 3 centimeters of snow with the daytime high of -1. Next week, there will be a mix of sun and cloud with intermittent flurries, a high of +1 and a low of -2. There's a cool night ahead of us all tonight with a temperature of -1, feeling like -8, and a chance of flurries. Sunset is estimated at 4:40 p.m. this evening. I'm Sam Sion with Observer TV News. Back to you, Krystal and Bianca.
Thanks, Sam. Welcome back. Here are your national stories.
Black rights activist Viola Desmond will be the first Canadian woman featured on a $10 bill. Finance Minister Bill Morneau and the Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz announced the selection this morning. Desmond will begin appearing on the bill in 2018. Desmond, often called Canada's Rosa Parks, is best known for refusing to accept racial segregation in a movie theater in Nova Scotia. Poloz said that it's a historical day that celebrates the contributions of Canadian women.
Canada is set to distinguish themselves in the U.S. carbon pricing plan. Experts predict Canada's Environmental Action Plan could reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. On Friday, 10 provinces will be deciding on a national carbon price as a part of the 2015 Paris Environmental Accords. Alberta Premier Rachel Notley says it is uncertain that all of Canada's provinces will sign the agreement. Saskatchewan's Premier Brad Wall is unwilling to agree to the plan. He's determined to take Ottawa to court to negotiate carbon prices. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has been open about not abiding to Paris agreements.
Alberta's elementary schools have decided to join the growing trend of creating gender-neutral washrooms. Some public places across Canada have already gender-neutral, all-gender, and unisex bathrooms. 37 out of 188 washrooms in Parliament Hill are gender-neutral. The Royal Ontario Museum has 3 all-gender washrooms, and the Canadian Museum for Human Rights has 1 on each level. Regina's new Mosaic Stadium has 9 gender-neutral bathrooms, and a number of universities such as McGill, Carleton, and Ryerson all have gender-neutral washrooms.
Vice President Joe Biden will be attending a celebratory dinner with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today as a part of his 2-day visit to Ottawa. The dinner is to celebrate the Canada-U.S. relationship. Biden will meet with Indigenous leaders and premiers to discuss climate change and healthcare tomorrow morning. They are unlikely to talk about the softwood lumber dispute or the new measures to coordinate climate change policies. Rather, Biden is here to maintain the strong connection before Trump becomes president early next year. After the break, we're back with international news, and President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. The choice has enraged environmental activists, as Pruitt has been known to be critical of federal environmental regulations. As an attorney, Pruitt launched multiple lawsuits to block federal measures to reduce smog and curb emissions. Trump's transition team said in a statement that Pruitt is a national leader against EPA's job, killing the war on coal. The recount of votes in Michigan has been halted. A federal judge has ruled the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein, had no legal standing to look at the ballots. The judge's ruling stated that Stein was denied a recount because she did not have the chance to win the state and therefore was not an aggregated candidate. Stein only received 1.07% of the vote in the state. This ruling has confirmed Donald Trump's win of the state over Hillary Clinton's needs to be recounted on the 3 states: Michigan, Washington, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. The recount The recount in Wisconsin has only improved Trump's lead, and Pennsylvania will decide Friday if it will recount the votes. South Korea impeachment votes. South Korea's parliament introduced a bill on Thursday to impeach President Park Geun-hye. It is expected that a parliamentary vote will in favor of impeachment on Friday with 2/3 majority. This motion follows Park's political scandal that has hundreds of thousands protesting in the capital over 6 consecutive weekends. She is accused of colluding in criminal activities of a longtime friend to manipulate government affairs. Park has been under nationwide pressure to resign immediately, and her approval rating is at a record low of 4%. If the vote to impeach passes, the Constitutional Court must then decide whether to uphold the motion. Park, South Korea's first female president, would be the first democratically elected president not to serve a full 5-year term.
After a 6.5 magnitude earthquake killed over 100 people on Wednesday, humanitarian organizations are visiting the Aceh province of Indonesia on Thursday to assess the damage. Rescue personnel concentrated their search on the town of Marudu in PD Jaya district near the epicenter of the quake. Progress was slow due to a lack of heavy excavators. The National Disaster Agency said 600 buildings were severely damaged or destroyed in the districts of Pidi Jaya, Pidi, and Burian. Aleppo's ceasefire in the works. As Syrian armed forces encroached on eastern Aleppo, rebels call for a 5-day ceasefire. Syria and its allies are closer than ever, making the rapid headway in their fight to overcome rebel forces. In its wake, a catastrophe of wounded and displaced people. Nearly 150 wounded civilians are moved to safety as the intense fighting continues in Aleppo, Syria. Sources say 6 rebel-held neighborhoods have been under heavy artillery and government-sanctioned bombed raids. Winning Aleppo would be a big win for Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has been backing President Bashar al-Assad's efforts in the fight to regain control for Syria. Now, over to Chelsea Ward, who has your entertainment news.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Ward, and this is your entertainment news for today. Kanye West is rehabilitating from his mental breakdown faster than anticipated. Sources close to the rapper have said that since returning home, Kanye has been feeling more relaxed and creative. Sources say a temporary private recording studio has been set up inside his Bel Air mansion so he can begin recording what could be the start of a new album. Veteran British actor Peter Vaughn, most famous for his role as Maester Aemon on Game of Thrones, passed away Tuesday night at the age of 93. His best-known roles include the 70s prison sitcom Porridge, The French Lieutenant's Woman, and The Naked Runner, where he starred opposite to Frank Sinatra. Vaughn's agent says the actor passed away surrounded by family and friends. He is survived by his wife, Lilias Walker. For the second year in a row, Johnny Depp has topped Forbes magazine's list of most overpaid actors. The survey looks at the last 3 movies an actor has starred in prior to June 2016, barring animated films and insignificant roles. Forbes estimates that Depp received an income of $2.80 for every dollar he took home from box office flops, such as Alice Through the Looking Glass, Mordecai, and Black Mass. In bizarre celebrity news, Sofia Vergara's embryos are suing her in court. Yeah, you heard that right. Vergara's ex-fiancé Nick Loeb filed a right-to-live lawsuit against Vergara on behalf of her frozen eggs. Her eggs, given the names Emma and Isabella in Louisiana court papers, are contending that they are being deprived of an inheritance from a trust created for them in the state. This comes after Vergara's ex tried to sue her in California for custody over the embryos, which the couple created when they were still together in 2013. Vergara's lawyers believe this newest suit is nothing more than another attempt on the part of Loeb to keep himself in the public eye. I'm Chelsea Ward, and this has been your entertainment news. Back to you, Krystal.
Thank you, Chelsea. We have Seat with Zadia up next, where she shares her view of the week.
Good afternoon, Canada. I'm Sadia Rahman, and you're watching A Seat with Sadia. In a desperate appeal for long-lasting power, German Chancellor Angela Merkel pled to her center-right Christian Democratic Union. Her grand idea? To call for a partial ban on the burqa and the niqab. She says that Germany should ban the full-face veil wherever legally possible, and that the nation wouldn't tolerate Sharia law over German law. Accepting her party's nominations as its candidate for another 4 years, she used the moment to strategically speak to the gaining popularity of anti-immigration and far-right parties. It was a tricky move, but it clearly worked. And it all comes down to associating Islam with terrorism and as the other, not a nation's law and justice. Merkel, as a female politician, should understand the demeaning effects of this more than anyone. Women's freedom and identity, especially women of color and Muslim women, always ends up as a tool of propaganda feeding into an outdated rhetoric. It's worth noting that Germany doesn't even really know how many women wear the burqa and the niqab. The Central Council of Muslims in Germany has no data on how many women actually wear the veil. However, German reporter Fabian Kohler conducted his own research into this matter. He found that there might be around 300 women who actually wear the religious garment in Germany. So why has Merkel's proposed ban been so lauded? As of now, a feasible framework doesn't even exist to enact this law. The announcement was simply an easy way for Merkel to gain back political capital within her party and act tough on integration to the German public. After Germany allowed nearly 100 million asylum seekers last year, the German public started noticing a rise in sexual offenses, despite statistics indicating that less than 1% of sex crimes are tied to immigrants or refugees. The actual effects of a ban in countries such as France have had very little research conducted. What we do know is that numbers released by the Interior Ministry found that in 2015, 1,546 fines had been imposed. There were many repeat offenders. One woman was even found to be fined 33 times. If anything, this information suggests that some Muslim women may actually be wearing the niqab and the burqa as a form of rebellion. Banning the burqa is just a concession to Islamophobia. It reinforces the belief that there is something inherently suspicious and criminal in Muslim veil and Muslim identity. I'm a veiled woman, and I can tell you that we are, by large, not dangerous. It's politics that is always criminalizing and terrorizing us. By banning the burqa and the niqab, Germany will only be adding onto an environment of fear and hate towards an entire religion. And for Merkel, it's just a tough act. Thank you for watching. And now, back to the news with Bianca Quijano.
Thanks, Sadia. That's our broadcast for today.
I'm Bianca Quijano.
And I'm Krystal Reynolds. This has been Toronto Observer TV News.